Montana's only daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I like football!
Now here's your host, Coulter Nuanez.
Look who I found. What's up, Montana? Welcome in. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Coulter Nuanez. This fine gentleman here, if you're watching on TV or on YouTube, that's Rajim Seabrook. He has now been on the show for a little while. We had holidays and travels and all sorts of things, but back in the saddle today, all sorts of stuff to get to. Hope you have a great Friday. Hope you have an outstanding week. Need something to do this weekend? Well, how about skiing? It's been dumping snow. Lost Trail Power Mountain, they are 100% open. They have excellent conditions. Plenty of more powder in store as well. You want your kids to learn how to rip? If so, Lost Trail has some great ski and snowboard programs. They're all mountain program. It started last week, but you can still get your kids involved in that as well. For all snow reports or for information on tickets or anything else, you can always head over to losttrail.com. Lost Trail. Go for the snow. We're going to talk a whole bunch of different things. We're going to talk all the way around the world of sports here off the top because Rajim has not been in for about a month. So a lot of stuff to catch up on. A lot of things I want his take on. Also, the reignition of one of my favorite segments, the Sports Medicine Journal. I talked to Dr. Michael Wright earlier this week. He is a orthopedic surgeon at Missoula Bone and Joint. And a couple injuries that were pretty obvious during the most recently completed FCS playoffs, the college football season. We talked about some of those. Like, it's pretty obvious the turf, or lack thereof, the grass down in Frisco, Texas, for the FCS National Championship game. It was very wet. It was very slick. But what does that mean in terms of lower leg injuries? So we get into all that sort of stuff. It wasn't just Tommy Millott from Montana State. NDSU had several guys go down as well. So we talked all about what is the difference between an ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain, and an inversion ankle sprain. We also talked about shoulder cuffs because that's become so commonplace in the world of college football. Tommy with the assist, getting Rajim some headphones. Also, we're going to reignite our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. So we have two different ones that occurred when I was on Christmas break. Macy Murphy, a senior at Huntley Project High School, and Sophie Thatcher, a senior at Butte Central High School. Each of those multi-sport outstanding athletes will join us a little later on here in the show as well. And then second hour, we're going to talk all things NFL playoffs, maybe even to get in some NBA and some college football. But a heavy dose of the NFL playoffs with a whole bunch of games, 6 total games this weekend to keep you entertained. So it should be fun. Also fun, good idea here by Rajim. All of our music today, the playlist, is curated based on hip-hop groups and or artists from the city or general area of the teams hosting playoff games. So, for example, the first playoff game of the NFL playoffs Saturday, the Cincinnati Bengals are hosting. So we went with Bone Thugs and Harmony. They're from Cleveland, right by Cincinnati. You'll get the gist as we continue to play you some good jams, but that's what we're here for. Keep you entertained. Want to watch the show, stream the show? You always can on the station website, 1029ESPN.com. Click on Listen Live. You can also always hit us up on YouTube. And if you want to be a part of the show, 406-888-1029. That's 888-1029. And all guests will join us via the Regish Brothers RV phone line. And then, of course, we are broadcasting to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Dude, it's been like 4 or 5 weeks of Fridays without you. How you been living, dude? What's been going on?
I've been well, man. Like I said, I missed you and I missed doing the show. I always love ending the week on a high note here in the studio with you and Tommy and Andrew and the rest of the crew. And life is good. The holidays kind of dissect the month of December exactly in half, and then you throw a championship game in there, and that's 3 Fridays in a row that your handsome self and my quasi-handsome self can't get together and make this melodious thing happen on Friday afternoons for the people going home to enjoy the weekend.
Well, what have you been doing? Because you spent all fall coaching for Sentinel at the high school level, running the freshman team and helping out the varsity.
No doubt.
You just showed me the Sentinel new state championship rings with the
it's
homage to the back-to-back, which is pretty cool.
Oh, it's beautiful, man.
But I know you can't get enough of the coaching. So what are you up to now? Who are you coaching these days?
I just finished coaching middle school basketball over at St. Joe's and won another Copper League championship and had a good banquet last night with the kids and got celebrated for having my 100th victory. And I don't care if it's the NFL, NHL, MLB, or Pee Wee football. If you put in that much time and get 100 wins over less than just about a decade's worth of time, you're doing something right with the kids and for the kids. So that was a good celebration. And outside of that, just, trying to be a good man day by day and be there for my kids and love this community the way I do.
For some of you, it is a long weekend upcoming because Martin Luther King Day on Monday. So if you do have that day off, great. And please at least spend a moment in time acknowledging the man who the holiday is named after. But I know you had some thoughts on this as well, Raji, because I think that social and racial equality has been thrust to the forefront over the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. I think that the playing of and then removal of sports, I mean, for that to coincide, for there to be not a lot of sports going on when the George Floyd incident happened, mm-hmm. I think it made America as a whole look way more closely. It wasn't just one of these things where you could avoid it or look away or just change the channel and turn on, Magic versus Celtics. You had to actually sit there and absorb what was happening around us. But all that said, particularly with us in the sports world, I think that everything that has happened just in terms of social injustice, racial injustice, is so shocking and also unfortunate because I've always said that the thing that brings people together the most and probably the greatest example of multiculturalism that we have in our society is sports teams. Like you look at the college teams for the University of Montana and Montana State, a great many of the minorities that live in our communities play for those teams or did at one point play for those teams. But when you look at the dynamics of the teams, you can have guys from Saco, Montana and Dallas, Texas that couldn't be from more different backgrounds. They become best friends. And that's why I think it even hurt us in the sports world even more than everybody else because we see how well the mixing of races and cultures work on an everyday basis in the sports world. But none of it would have been possible without the civil rights activism of a great many men, including John Lewis, who we lost earlier. And women, for sure.
Absolutely.
Including John Lewis, who we lost earlier this year. But, of course, Martin Luther King, perhaps the most prominent figure of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. And always a day worth acknowledging, just the fact that, especially us here in the sports world, most of what we cover would not have been possible without Dr. King.
Yeah, just a good segue into the weekend and good thought, especially in with the ever-shifting sands and demographics of the world, let alone Missoula, Montana. And I agree with you, Coulter. Right now, inclusion and equity and diversity is at an all-time premium, so to say. And it's good. It's good. It's time to recognize other people. It's time to stop marginalizing people. It's time to celebrate and not degrade further. But MLK Day, big day, lots going on in this community. Empower Montana is one of the leaders in this community, and a lot of individual leaders: Jamal Galbraith, Murray Pierce, Dexter Royce, Paul Renault, and countless others. And then, of course, the lady, the legend, the myth, Heidi Wallace over that Empower, who does great things for this community, and some former Grizz legends like Jayton Simpson, who will be doing some spoken word Monday evening online. So if you guys are interested in wanting to celebrate the day, for many it's a day off, for me it's a day on, because without men like that, I don't get to stand in studios in states and in cities like this. So proud to help promote that, but also to speak to it.
No question about it. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. Rajim Seabrook in studio with me, Coulter Nuanez, talking all things sports here on a Friday. I already had my Florence coffee for the day, but of course it is a Friday, so that means you can stay up late. Don't be scared. Go get yourself some Florence coffee. I was drinking some peppermint tea from Florence earlier this afternoon. Delightful. Usually I go with the iced Americanos in the mornings. Not going to lie, doubled down today. Went there twice. It happens to the best of us. Needed some caffeine. It's all good. But it is a Friday, so that means you can stay up late. Go get yourself a Florence coffee. There's a Florence Coffee Company kiosk somewhere near you, no matter where you're at in Western Montana or around the state of Montana. Let's talk some NBA for a minute, because
what's up?
I just started getting back into the NBA. I've learned as I've gotten older and as my jobs have just continued to get busier. I thought this was supposed to go on the other way. I thought it was supposed to get easier as you get older. Not so much, especially not in the world of technology. But either way, the brain space. You only have enough brain space for certain things, and college football was so consuming this year, which was great. Mm-hmm. But I haven't really dived into the NBA. But I started getting into it over Christmas, and we were talking NBA last night while we were hanging out at the house making dinner. So the number one most striking thing, though, is here we are in year 19 for LeBron James. And I know that he's getting poor reviews for his work as a general manager because many of the guys that they've brought in, not so good. And then you got guys like Kyle Kuzma and Montrezl Harrell who are having good years.
Great years.
For the Wizards, and that's what they kind of unloaded. But LeBron's GM skills aside, the dude's averaging 29.5 points per game. He's only a couple buckets behind Kevin Durant for the scoring lead. LeBron's always been a great scorer, but it's his all-around game that gets so many headlines. I don't believe he's won a scoring championship this decade. So the fact that here he is in year 19 at age 37 and he's averaging 29+ points per game, it's just stupid. It's unbelievable.
He is almost an enigma unto himself. Right now, he's just lighting it up. The last 5 games in particular. But part of that is it because we always know he can, but now he has to out of necessity due to injuries, due to trades, due to guys having better careers, and then due to big names not doing very well, Russell Westbrook.
Sure.
It's out of necessity. So it's nice to see that he is more than willing and able to still carry his team on his back and do everything to keep these guys afloat.
To be fair, LeBron is averaging that, but he has missed about 12 games. Anthony Davis missed 15 games so far. Russell Westbrook, he has played all 42 games so far for the Los Angeles Lakers. They sit at 21-21, so exactly 500 right now for the Los Angeles Lakers. But just a quick update in terms of the standings. I know that we still have quite a bit of time left, about halfway through the season right now, 82-game season. Most teams have played between 40 and 42 games. But the Phoenix Suns, the top team in the West, the best record in basketball, 31-9. Not a surprise, given the fact they went to the finals last year. They have a great young core. The Golden State Warriors, not a surprise to me, but maybe a surprise to others, are the second seed right now in the West. Steph Curry having one of his best years as a pro, which is impressive as well in terms of longevity.
Yeah.
But then the Memphis Grizzlies, they're sitting there at third. So impressive by Ja Morant and the Grizz. And in the East, it's the Chicago Bulls. They're kind of one of the surprises of the league.
Resurgent.
27-12, the Bulls are. They're number 1 seed in the East. Miami number 2, Brooklyn number 3. So I'll keep you apprised everything that's going on throughout the NBA. But let's talk a little football. How about speaking of longevity? I know my our fearless leader here, my boss, is listening, and she loves football. She loves the old school gunslinger type quarterbacks, though, like the Brett Favre's. Not the. She's always making fun of Tom Brady because she's like, well, if Tom Brady was a normal human who drank beer and like ate hamburgers, this wouldn't be happening. But instead, he's sleeping in hyperbaric chambers and drinking
inside castles that have moats, and he drinks water out of Ugg boots. That's bottled by Giselle.
For real. And drinks out of the Fountain of Youth for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Don't really know how he's doing it, but I don't even know what else we can really say. Like, it's not just like he's playing pretty well for a 44-year-old or something. Because I completely anticipated that. I thought that he would keep playing and keep being pretty solid. Like a little bit better than what Ben Roethlisberger was this year. Brady is besides Aaron Rodgers, the best quarterback in the league. It's unbelievable to watch.
Period.
I mean, he threw 43 touchdowns in his 44th year on Earth. That's just so crazy.
How do you beat that?
I mean,
how do you question that?
He had his second best statistical season of his career. This is year 21.
Knocking on the 45 burger.
It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, but that's also a testament to him taking care of his body.
For sure.
A lot of that, too, is not taking any hits. Like, when you think about Tom Brady, like, I don't recall Tom just being hurt or injured for any long periods of time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is a guy that's just been tough and has sustained and has been able to maintain at a really high level for a very long time. You couple that in, too, with systems. Like, when you look at the systems, especially the first 4 to 6 years that he was at the helm after the Bledsoe injury, a lot of it was he was protected due to his lack of athleticism.
For sure.
Get the ball out, get it into players' hands in space, and then just make it go. So credit Tom, credit the system, and Father Time is kind of losing one for a change. So it'll be interesting to see what materializes here in the next couple of years. But for right now, until he goes down, you can't bet against him.
Over under 5 years left for Tom Brady.
I say 3. T-minus 3. Yeah, I just when I look at the speed of things coming out of college,
right?
When I look at how the defenses are starting to seem, because you know how sports are, all of a sudden defenses are great, and then there's this new offense that comes out that has to get adjusted to. Right now, defense is starting to catch up to offenses, and when I look at like some of these edge rushers and linebackers, I don't care what bathwater Tom Brady's drinking, man. You speed kills.
It does for sure, but don't you think the speed of his mind overcomes all of it? I mean, because he's seen so many pictures now. The pre-snap picture, he's like a computer. He knows what's happening. Like there's not a look you can really show him now, so his brain isn't slowing down, and that's the only thing he really needs, right?
Well, the problem with that is you can perceive it all you want, and the brain can be as sharp and as fast as it all get out. But if life below the knees don't catch up with the speed between the ears, it's all a moot point, my friend.
Yeah, I'm just so interested to see so much of why guys like him retire is they just lose the luster to work as hard as it takes to be the best. He's such a freak that I don't really like. He's just so single-minded that I just don't really know if he's ever going to get bored. I mean, he would have already gotten bored at this point if that was going to be part of the scenario.
That's true, but I go back to the injury thing. But a lot of times, at this age for a quarterback, they are just so banged up and have bounced around the league that like the psyche, the ego has tapped out well before the body has. For this guy, his body is paralleling, and I like what you were talking about, Coulter. His mind is still so sharp and has such a great grasp of the game now and possibly going forward, and his body's held up so far. So, I as much as I despise the guy for my own reasons, I respect the heck out of him too for all that he's accomplished.
Nuanez now ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. Raheem Seabrook joining me, Coulter Nuanez, here in studio. Talking all the way around the wide world of sports. Raheem hasn't been here in a little while, so happy to have him back in studio. We're on his normal Friday schedule.
Yo.
It was a great pleasure covering football all year, especially with you doing our pre- and post-game shows like we did before every Grizz home game. And we were here November 20th down there on campus leading up to the rivalry game to Montana State. And what happened that afternoon and then all of the dominoes that fell after that afternoon, I don't think anybody could have predicted. From the Grizz walloping the Cats, I thought with the Grizz being at home and Bobby Houck, sort of having his guys in place, I did think the Grizz were justifiably a favorite in that game. I didn't think they were going to go win by 3 scores and just destroy Montana State like they did. But also you couldn't have predicted what happened after that. Matt McKay from Montana State enters the transfer portal. Tommy Mellott, the kid from Butte, Montana, takes the starting job. Holy cow, Montana State's in the national championship game. It was an unbelievable run for the Cats. But just from your perspective, I mean, pretty crazy that a team, I mean, we haven't seen that in the modern era, a team get whipped in the rivalry game and then go on a run like that.
Yeah, it's just, it's one of the best terms and movies for sports of all time is Any Given Sunday, right?
Right.
And I apply that to football. I apply that to sports on the daily. It was just our day for the Grizz, and then going forward, it was the days for the Cats leading up to that national championship game. So you never know, man. You just never know. You never know what that day brings when someone wants to flip that switch, that coach gets that one bright idea, that pendulum just, starts going in the right direction. Sure. And that's exactly what happened for the Grizz at first and then later for the Cats.
Montana State, they were so galvanized by you could tell internally that the departure of Matt McKay didn't do anything but provide a sense of relief almost. Like, you could tell just talking to their older defensive players that they were like, oh, sweet, we don't have to deal with this timid, soft. Matt McKay was solid, but he was not tough. And the whole identity of their team was to be this tough team. Well, then they get this tough kid from Butte who can run between the tackles, and he's basically a running back playing quarterback.
Athlete.
And boom, now all of a sudden the defense is reinvigorated. They're like, well, we got our dude. We got our Tim Tebow or whoever you want to call him. I mean, we've seen this parallel before, right? It's just kind of like the Ravens this year in the NFL. the Ravens defense looked horrible when Lamar Jackson was out. Why those things shouldn't coincide, but they absolutely do.
They absolutely do, because if you can't sustain drives, your defense is on the field. They get tired, a la the Grizzlies this time, a couple of times.
Yeah,
this
for
year.
sure, no question.
You've got to understand context and balance. If you're not playing well on offense, your defense, no matter how solid they are, they're going to get taxed.
It was a great resurgence for the Cats and the Grizz simultaneously. Both programs have been on the rise, but this was as good as they've been simultaneously in about 10 years. And one of just a few times over the last, in my lifetime, where they were both, bona fide top 8, top 5 type programs. That said, being in Frisco, Texas on last Saturday, the gap was unbelievable still. I mean, North Dakota State looks... they're like nothing else. I mean, when you watch them warm up, you're like, this is already over.
Yeah.
I mean, the offensive line and the fullbacks, and you're just like, that does not look like teams that we cover. That looks like a completely different level of team. It was striking to watch, and it was striking to watch them just push Montana State around up and down the field.
Well, after I was halfway through the first quarter, it was just... the writing was on the wall.
I mean, the Cats gave up 280 rushing yards in the first half. That's like the third best rush defense in the country. They gave up almost 300 yards in the first half.
Yeah, that's letting you know, man. It's a factory over there in North Dakota, man, and it's a night and day difference. And as bad as I felt for the Cats losing, I was glad to see the disparity, because it sometimes quiets the chatter for fans of the Grizz, including myself, saying we need to go to the next level, or we need to go to a different conference, or something along those lines. And then something like that happens, and it's like, all right, we're good, we cool, but we ain't that cool, not yet.
That's the whole unknown factor that's upcoming, though, is that this isn't speculation. This is a fact. The FCS is dissolving. The best programs are moving up. Correct. And I think that the bottom half of the FCS, once the dust settles, I mean, it takes 2 or 3 years for the financial ramifications of everything that we lose or gain to catch up. Mm-hmm. I think there's a reality in which a lot of the lower level conferences at this level, they're not going to have, I'm not going to say they're not going to have football, but the football is going to be deprioritized at an even higher level. And so then where's Montana State go? I don't really want to dive all the way into that conversation. Should they move up? Where would they go? All that
Rabbit
stuff.
Hole.
But the fact of the matter is that it's like Ty Gregorak, longtime football coach, said on the show earlier this week. You can't sit here and complain about how North Dakota State has full cost of attendance and an indoor practice facility and all this money. If you're Montana State, you just got to figure out how to go raise it. You just have to figure it out. They have to get an indoor practice facility in Bozeman and Missoula for those teams to be competitive. That's why North Dakota State is what they are. They are not practicing outside in 0 degrees in Fargo, North Dakota. They're inside 67 and
chilling.
Crisp. Yeah, chilling. I mean, you don't get kids from Florida and Georgia to go to Fargo, North Dakota unless you have an indoor practice facility. That's what Montana State, they got to figure out how to get one done.
The fact that we don't have anything like that indoor, period, for the amount of recreating and sports engagement that we have in the state of Montana, like developers, politicians, investors, man. You should be ashamed of yourself.
See, that's what I would do. Everybody's thinking of this as like a privately fundraised, university-only entity.
No, man.
Make it a community center and like have part of the revenue stream to pay for it come from taxpayers, right?
Look, I know there's rich people out there listening to this show right now. I love kids and I love sports and I love community. If you have money, you want to invest in something, look at Chelsea Piers. I'm your dude. Let's control this. Let's build something and put something back in not even the state of Montana. Put it back here in Missoula.
For sure.
Like, build it. They will come. I think everyone benefits from it.
Yeah.
Like, I got ideas. I'm that dude. I'm a visionary. I just don't have. I'm just cash poor like Woody Allen. Like, the best nation is a donation. Put the money out here. The community gets better. Our university will get better. Take it from North Dakota.
No question. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio. Rod James Seabrook in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. Last thing, we're going to talk all the way around the NFL playoffs, but head's been rolling in the NFL the last week or so. It started with Vic Fangio for the Broncos getting fired just a couple hours after their season ended.
Bye.
Matt Nagy from Chicago. Brian Flores controversially fired in Miami. Mike Zimmer out in Minnesota. Urban Meyer fired before the season's even over in Jacksonville. I don't even know who the Texans coach is, but he got fired too. And then, of course, the one that was spurring all national talk radio because The fact that Brian Flores got fired, everybody was sitting here thinking, how Brian Flores get fired and Joe Judge did not? And then Joe Judge finally put his own last nail in his own coffin and finally gets fired. But,
dude,
man,
do you know how happy I am?
The Giants couldn't have had a worse season, man. They would have been way better off to go 0-17.
Dude.
They're stupid, like, kind of be competitive sometimes and win. What, they win 4 games, 5 games?
Consistently inconsistent?
Right. They couldn't even be the worst team in the league. They were too silly to even, like, go get the number 1 pick.
Clownish, silly, buffoonery. That's all it was in full effect and on full display. Joe Judge looks like some guy.
How did that even happen?
Dude, I don't know. He should be wearing a crew. He looks like some youth counselor for
He's like the least NFL coach that I've ever seen. When you hear him talk, like,
he was a special teams coordinator from the Patriots. Like, I don't care if he's built off. I don't care if he's the knothole on the Belichick tree. You don't go from special teams coordinator to head coach, son.
4-13 officially for the New York Football Giants, including winning just one. That's right, just one road game. It actually was in New Orleans over the Saints. That's actually sort of surprising. But the only victories otherwise for the Giants this year, they beat the Panthers, they beat the Raiders, who were in the playoffs, and then they ended. Oh, and then they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, only then to lose 6 in a row down the stretch. Who comes to the top of your mind who do you want to replace him? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any desires for who you want to be the New York Giants head coach to be?
First, before that, man, I got to think about who they need a GM.
Well, totally.
They need a GM first. Like, you know what? Give me Adrian Wilson. Give me Adrian Wilson. He's
with the DC where?
He DC, and I think he does player personnel for the Cardinals.
Yes, and he played it for the Cardinals famously. An excellent player.
Ring of Honor, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Give me someone who understands and can think, relate, communicate, emote, and relate like a player.
Right.
There comes a point in time where age disparity, and I'm not trying to knock people, it's not an ageism thing. The gap in disparity in age, and I hate when people say age is just a number. Go choke on it somewhere else. The disparity between David Gettleman and a guy like Kadarius Toney, he's old enough to be his grandfather. How do they relate?
Right.
They can't. How do they communicate? They can't. There's a thing called cultural communication, and I'm not basing it on race, but cultural communication between ages that just don't relate, which is why GMs become ineffective when you're old enough to be the grandfathers of the guys you're drafted. There's a big disparity. There's no relation. There's no understanding the culture of a locker room, what these guys need. And the Giants are a prime example of that. You live in one of the best media capitals.
Yep.
One of the most storied, respected franchises in the history of NFL.
And it's not just the top media market either, right? You're from New York.
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
The Giants are the most popular team in New York amongst the pro sports teams besides other than probably the Yankees,
the Yankees,
right?
Period.
It's Yankees and Giants,
period.
Far above the Jets and the Mets and everybody else, right?
Who?
Exactly. Yeah. Like talk radio to discussion in the city. I mean, it centers upon the New York Football Giants.
Bingo.
So it is interesting to see who they might go after. I actually think that of the teams that were the 3 and 4 win teams this year, like the Jags were a disaster because of Urban Meyer first and foremost, but also because they just don't have any good players.
Right.
Texans, same thing. Deshaun Watson, fiasco. Also, just not very good players. I'm not saying the Giants are world beaters, but actually they do have a couple good players.
Absolutely.
I mean, Xavier McKinney, who they drafted from Alabama, is really good. Adoree Jackson's a good corner. They have decent players. I mean, didn't they sign
Azeez Ojulari? Like almost led all rookies in sacks, almost double digits.
They got Dexter Lawrence from Clemson a couple years ago in the draft. I mean, he's good.
Saquon Barkley, stud.
Right.
Like
they did have some flops at certain positions, though. First of all, I think Evan Ingram is one of the most overrated players in the league.
Period. Can't stay healthy.
And also, people just think he's better than he is only because of fantasy football. He's really not that good. He's okay.
No, he's okay at best.
And also, you could probably the other biggest disappointment for them, though, is I think that Kenny Golladay could be argued as perhaps the worst or the most disappointing free agent signing of the offseason. He didn't catch a touchdown this year.
No, and the only thing he caught was a bad one and a cold, and possibly COVID. Disappointing. A frame and a construct for how not to run a team.
Yeah.
Give me Adrian Wilson in the GM.
Yep.
Give me Eric Bieniemy as the head coach.
Ooh, that'd be good. Bieniemy's got to get a shot at some point.
Saucy,
right?
baby. Keep it spicy. Let's go.
What about, so the other thing I thought was so funny is that, I know that Brian Flores, the Dolphins lost 7 games in a row this year. They also turned around and won 7 games in a row. And over the last 2 years, they won 19 games. That's a lot of games, considering they have only average talent. Mm-hmm. I thought it was so funny that Flores gets fired and then he's one of the top candidates for all the openings. Because he is a good coach, right? Would you take him in New York?
No.
Yeah.
No. Give me someone new. Give me some fresh blood, man. Give me less recycled.
Yeah.
Give me a Bieniemy. Give me a Leftwich.
Sure.
Give me someone
would be compelling.
Like when you look at some of the young offensive coordinators, like give me someone again who's relatable to the players, who's thinking in the same sometimes mindset that the players are. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, for sure.
If you want to, don't want to drive a Corvette, but drive it like a Studebaker. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, come on now.
Rajiv Seabrook in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. It is Northwest Motorsports Studio. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. We're going to talk more NFL top of the hour, so that's about half an hour from now. But take a step outside of the NFL, but still talk football and injuries. Dr. Michael Wright, Missoula Bone and Joint. He'll swing by. What's an aversion high ankle sprain? What does that mean? How does it affect you as an athlete? He'll diagnose all that and more. Keep it right here. ESPN Radio. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
For those unexpected injuries, skip the ER and walk into our orthopedic urgent care on Mullen Road. Neck to toe, we are here for you with weekday, evening, and Saturday hours. Enter under the blue awning at Suite A, just past the main clinic entrance with convenient drive-up access. No appointment or referral is necessary. Orthopedic urgent care at Missoula Bone and Joint on Mullen Road, because we understand it's never a good time to be injured.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom, hey Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrac tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
You want to feel important. You want to be a part of something bigger, something that matters and can help change things. You want to feel like you belong. We know. We felt that way too. And that's why we did something about it. We aren't just Army National Guard soldiers. We are normal people just like you. And together, we can make a difference. Take on your legacy. Visit NationalGuard.com to find out more.
Sponsored by the Montana Army National Guard. Aired by the Montana Broadcasters Association and this station.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
All but one Big Sky Conference basketball team involving Montana and Montana State has been postponed this weekend. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. Because of COVID-19 issues within the basketball programs at Southern Utah, Thursday's contests between SUU and Montana have been postponed and rescheduled. The Grizz men were set to host the defending Big Sky regular season champion Thunderbirds Thursday night in Missoula, while the Lady Grizz were supposed to play the league-leading T-Bird women in Cedar City, Utah on Thursday. Instead, those games will both be played on Monday, February 7th, according to a press release from UM Athletics. Montana State was scheduled to host Southern Utah's men's basketball team on Saturday afternoon. That game has been postponed and has yet to be rescheduled. As of Thursday morning, the Montana State women's game at SUU in Cedar City, scheduled for 2 p.m. on Saturday, remains on the schedule. The Big Sky announced 2 weeks ago that postponed games due to COVID could be rescheduled. In Crosstown High School hoops in Missoula on Tuesday, Missoula Sentinel swept Missoula Big Sky. The Sentinel girls bolted to a 16-4 first quarter lead and saw Brooke Stainer score 10 points to lead the Spartans to a 46-36 win over the Eagles. Candace Couture led Big Sky with 16 points. And in the boys game, the fifth-ranked Spartans got 13 points from Caden Sheridan and 11 more from Riley Allen to earn a 60-54 win over the Eagles, who were led by Lewis Saunders with 17 points.
This 102.9 ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Ring for the green leaf, give it up on the first show, but it lay low. Cause the poor creep when they roll so low. Break if you can't get away, but it don't stay, yeah, yo, keep your bankroll. Yeah, we're having a celebration, let us stay high. You can never believe when it's time to grind. I'm down for mine, crime after crime. For the creep to the
Little Bone Thugs for you on a Friday. Here's the game. We are playing songs associated by hip-hop groups associated with certain regions of the country based on the NFL playoff game. So the Cincinnati Bengals are the first game up. They host the Las Vegas Raiders. That game 2:30 on NBC, by the way. But of course, Cincinnati, right up the road from Cleveland. Bone Thugs and Harmony, also from Cleveland. So that's the game. Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Well, happy now for the first edition of one of my favorite segments of this previous year, the first one of 2022, that is. It's the Sports Medicine Journal, presented by Missoula Bone and Joint. Dr. Michael Wright joins us once a month to talk about all the things that go into various injuries that you might hear from the world of sports. No particular sport. All sports have injuries associated with them, unfortunately, but that's why it's great to have orthopedic doctors and orthopedic surgeons like Dr. Michael Wright to help take care of you. Doc, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for being with us. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Colter. Thanks for having me back.
First and foremost, I want to talk to you about this dynamic that I sort of learned about over the last weekend. And we're not going to talk about specific players or instances like we never do. We're just going to talk broadly about certain dynamics that cause certain sorts of injuries. But one injury that really impacted the FCS National Championship game was a high ankle sprain. And I learned about the dynamic of aversion high ankle sprains, ones that are maybe even more severe because of not only the impact and the angle of the injury, but also because of maybe the turf, cleats getting caught, all that sort of stuff. So explain that dynamic to us. First of all, I know we've talked about this once before on this segment, but that was about a year ago. So I guess just start with what defines a high ankle sprain? Why is it different than just a normal ankle sprain?
Well, yeah, that's right, Colter. There's two main categories that as orthopedic surgeons we think about this type of injury. So low ankle sprains versus high ankle sprains. And in general, low ankle sprains are pretty quick to recover from. People are usually able to put weight on it after it happens, although it's painful. High ankle sprains disrupt a different set of ligaments, and they actually disrupt the ligaments that hold the two leg bones together right above the ankle, and that's why it's called a high ankle sprain. The ligaments that are injured are actually higher up than the ankle joint. The low ankle sprain disrupts the ligaments that are actually below the ankle joint. And so in general, if you hear high ankle sprain, you're immediately thinking, okay, this is a more severe ankle sprain. And the difference anatomically is the structures that are actually injured. And so a high ankle sprain disrupts the distal tibiofibular ligaments, which are the ligaments that hold the ankle together. Now, a subset of that ankle sprain that's actually even worse is an eversion type, which is something that you alluded to, where it actually damages the ankle ligaments on the inside of the ankle called the deltoid ligament. So it's an extra it's an even worse type of high ankle sprain as far as high ankle sprains go. Sometimes it even necessitates surgery if it disrupts, both the inside of the ankle joint as well as the ligaments that attach in the lower leg. And so, yeah, this can be devastating, as you know, for athletes. I mean, high ankle sprains can really plague some athletes, and they're, again, as we've talked before, it's a whole spectrum. You know, there's some that are mild high ankle sprains, and then there's some that are extremely severe. So very difficult to talk prognostically about it without knowing the severity of the ankle sprain itself.
Dr. Michael Wright joining us. It's the Sports Medicine Journal presented by Missoula Bone and Joint, where he is an orthopedic surgeon here in the Garden City. And I want to go into that aversion a little bit more because, again, we're not talking about specifics, but at the FCS National Championship game between Montana State and North Dakota State, there were several key injuries on each side. And to me, each time it looked like the injury was a lower leg injury, high ankle sprain or otherwise, maybe even some sort of knee strain or tear as well. And so much of it, I thought, was because the game was played on Bermuda grass, which is catered to soccer players, and there was all sorts of moisture on the field. So when it does catch, I mean, how does that add just to the severity of the injury, as well as then, I mean, is it worse? Is it harder to come back from? What's the dynamic like if you want to come back into that specific game and or just down the road? It seems like if it gets caught, the injury can be a lot more significant, a lot more severe.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the harder that the foot is fixed into the playing surface, be it turf or natural grass, you know, the harder that it's fixed down in the playing surface, the higher potential for injury. Because, you know, if the foot doesn't catch the ground very severely and it can immediately give way, well, that's going to protect the ligaments because then there's motion at the surface. But, you know, if you have a cleated athlete who's playing, you know, on a surface where those cleats get really stuck in, then the momentum of their body is going to continue forward. And it'll be a higher likelihood to have an injury occur. But, you know, I think when you look at, you know, if someone can go back in and play from any type of ankle sprain, you have to look at a couple things. You know, if they're really unable to put much weight on it, I mean, it's really, you got to look at, are we going to put them back out there where they can't protect themselves? And that's the biggest question. You don't want to put them in a situation where they can't move quickly when they need to move quickly because the chances of them getting hurt again or even more severely really comes into play. So it is kind of a fine line. You know, when do you just kind of suck it up and go for it and tape them up, or when do you say, you know what, we're just going to shut you down for the game and do this right? And it's a fine line. It's a judgment call. There really is no right or wrong answer. You know, one little rule that occasionally I've used is if the person can jump on one foot after an ankle sprain on the sidelines, then they, you know, might be well enough to protect themselves in the game, and they can go back in. And certainly you see that applied at the collegiate and professional level all the time. You know, guys will have kind of lower grade ankle sprains and go back in. But the answer is, as always in sports medicine, it seems, is it depends. You know, it depends on a lot of things in terms of return to play after this type of injury.
And there's always the balance, too, between just pain threshold and also then how much does the pain threshold impact further, or I guess long-term side effects, long-term lingering of said injury. So if you do have the ability to, like you're saying, hop on one foot or something after a sprain, but if it is diagnosed as a high ankle, how much do you have to worry about long-term effects? I mean, can you hurt yourself more significantly even without impact if you do play on that injury?
You totally can. I mean, you really can. This is an injury where it's not an all or nothing. You know, when we talk about ACL, that's usually all or nothing. Partial ACL tears, extremely, extremely rare. But with ankles, you know, they're kind of a whole spectrum from really mild to really severe. So if you have kind of a milder-ish high ankle sprain, you're able to hop on one foot, able to go in, and then you have a secondary injury in that immediate first 24 hours, I mean, you can turn it into a really bad ankle injury that then would potentially necessitate surgery. And so that's kind of where you have to exercise caution. And it's always a tough conversation with athletes because, you know, at least at the collegiate level, they're usually, you know, begging to go back in. Professional level, I think, is a little bit different for a lot of reasons. But at the collegiate level, they're usually begging to go back in. And so it is a tough decision, you know, certainly in a game like the one you alluded to, where the championship, national championships on the line.
Dr. Michael Wright joining us here on Nuanez Now. It's ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. It's our sports medicine journal. We do this once a month here on ESPN Radio, and we'll also have this as a standalone podcast as well. You can always find it on our station website, on all your podcast hosting platforms, as well as on the Missoula Bone and Joint website. Missoula Bone and Joint, the presenting sponsor of the Sports Medicine Journal. Doc, the other thing that I saw during the FCS playoffs was a guy diving for a tackle and then landing and then sort of hyperextending his shoulder. It was not necessarily an impact from a hit as much as it was impact with the turf and sort of an awkward backward angle. It definitely looked like it was detrimental at the least, and certainly probably severely injuring to both labrum and rotator cuff. I know you have a lot of experience with those two types of injuries. My question for you is, the guy I'm referring to, he then left the game and then came back in with a significant cuff underneath his pads. What does that cuff do to stabilize a shoulder? And is there a difference between labrum and rotator cuff stabilization? Or I guess when you have that sort of impact, that sort of hyperextension, I guess I would say, of the rotator cuff / AC joint area, what's that injury like, and how does the cuff sort of mitigate it so a player can continue to play in a football game?
Well, the whole point of the cuff, the other name for it is a Sully brace, some people call them. The whole point of it is, how do we take away some of this joint's motion really to let it heal? And so the point of the cuff is to prevent your shoulder from being twisted in some sort of direction that would cause it to become unstable. So generally we use those cuffs for guys that have loose shoulders, shoulders that are dislocated, shoulders that partially dislocate, and it allows them to kind of hold that shoulder at least in the socket so they can continue to participate. Now, sometimes they can, sometimes they can't. Rotator cuff is kind of a whole different animal. If an athlete sustains a traumatic rotator cuff tear, it's usually pretty apparent to both the athlete and the medical provider that something is majorly wrong, and they really do not go back into games if they had an acute rotator cuff tear, because usually they can't lift the arm overhead at all. It's basically just a completely dysfunctional arm in that setting. So there's kind of a big difference in the way we treat labrum and rotator cuff. Labrum, this is what you hear about guys getting through the season wearing the brace, and then they have surgery right when the season's over to stabilize their shoulder. It's somewhat of an elective shoulder surgery, whereas if someone sustained a full thickness rotator cuff tear during play, that would be a season-ending injury, because there is some detriment to waiting to the end of the season, meaning it may translate into inferior outcomes down the road if you were to wait on that. So those braces that do hold the shoulder in, I've had kind of mixed experience with them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but it is something that the guys can use sometimes to prolong their season. I will tell you, any athlete that has to reach up overhead real aggressively will not like that cuff brace. Particularly wide receivers is the position that comes to mind. Making the one-handed catch with their arm overhead, it's very challenging to do that in a brace because it's designed to hold the shoulder in the socket, which means hold it more down at the side.
Sports Medicine Journal, presented by Missoula Bone and Joint. Dr. Michael Wright joining us here on ESPN Radio. And the one last hypothetical I want to ask you about, Doc, is I know there was two pretty prominent running backs I can think of that participated in the FCS playoffs. And there was all sorts of scuttle that these guys were going to have both knees operated on. And when I thought immediately meniscus, not necessarily an ACL or an MCL. But there is ways to sort of play through all of these things now. Maybe not ideal, maybe not good for your long-term health or your short-term recovery. When you hear maybe a guy has a pending procedure on his knees, it seems like meniscus is probably the most common one. So just take us through sort of that saga, because you can sort of wait it out and get a meniscus surgery later on if, in fact, it's not too detrimental of an injury and it's not too severe, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the meniscus, it's one of those structures that when we do meniscus surgery as orthopedic surgeons, most of the time it involves trimming the meniscus or taking out the unstable portion of the meniscus. Now, sometimes, and particularly in athletes, we push the envelope in terms of repairing the meniscus, which would mean you'd actually use suture material to sew the meniscus back together. And so 8 or 9 times out of 10, you're just going to go in and trim out the loose piece of tissue. And that's because most of the meniscus is devoid of any blood supply that will allow it to heal. The only type of meniscus tears that we actually can heal when you repair them are the type that's out in the peripheral rim. And so this is something lots and lots of athletes play through. In fact, there's been studies that show a lot of people have meniscus tears and don't even know it, so they're minimally symptomatic. And then when they have a surgery in the off season, it's usually more of a pretty quick recovery. If you just have a knee scope, it's sometimes referred to, or a knee arthroscopy. However, if you had a meniscus that needed to be repaired, that's a bigger surgery, not quite as big as ACL, but it's a little bit longer of a recovery. You're looking at more the 3-month mark, whereas, guys that have a knee scope, for example, NBA players, I mean, sometimes they're back as early as 4 weeks after the procedure. But, if you think about a meniscus tear that is not going to be repaired and you tell someone they can continue to play on it, the structure is already damaged and it's coming out down the road. And so we don't feel as bad as letting them play through the season with a meniscus, because that even if it does get a little worse, you're taking that structure out anyway. So anyway, and it's somewhat of a controversial topic, but that is definitely something that I see a lot of guys and a lot of people just play through and continue to go through life with, because they can tolerate the symptoms from it, remarkably well.
He's Dr. Michael Wright, Missoula Bone and Joint Orthopedic Surgeon. He joins us once a month here on Nuanez Now, the Sports Medicine Journal. Doc, very informative. We'll have more specific conversations moving forward, but I thought those were all pertinent for the place and time. Thanks so much for being with us. We love hearing from you each month, and have yourself a great rest of the month, and we'll talk to you next time around. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, you bet, Coulter. Good chatting with you.
Sports Medicine Journal presented by Missoula Bone and Joint. Dr. Michael Wright will join us once a month. Always very informative. Hanging out because we have a couple Student Athlete of the Weeks coming up for you. Macy Murphy, 3-sport athlete at Huntley Project High School, as well as Sophie Thatcher, 3-sport athlete out of Butte Central. Each one will join us next. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Part of the glory of building a business comes from leaving a legacy to ensure your business continues thriving into the future. Have you asked yourself lately, what is your plan? Forming a personalized business succession plan is essential to know the passion you put into your business will carry on. Nick Tabor at Westpac Wealth is here to help you navigate all your business succession and retirement planning needs. Give Nick a call at 728-6699 and keep the spirit of possibility vibrant while making your future more tax efficient with a personalized business succession and retirement plan for you.
Is 2022 the year you're finally ready to step up your hair game? If you're not sure where to go, look no farther than Compass Barbershop, a modern barbershop for everyone, where they can help you find a style that's right for you. Offering precision scissor cuts and fades in a unique and inclusive atmosphere, Compass Barbershop has it all, including convenient online booking at compassbarber.com. Step up your hair game in 2022. Find your way to Compass Barbershop, downtown on the Hip Strip, at the corner of modern and retro.
Whether you're in the restaurant business or you just want to host any big event, J&V Restaurant Supply can make sure you have everything you need. J&V Restaurant Supply is your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, J&V Restaurant has everything you might need. They have locations in Bozeman, Billings, and Great Falls. If you can't make it in, J&V also has a great website, jvrestaurant.com. Get everything you need for your next event at J&V, your restaurant specialists.
Montana brings a variety of reasons to get outdoors. Gear up at Bob Ward's Sports and Outdoors, Montana's largest sporting goods retailer. For over 105 years, Bob Ward's has been committed to providing outstanding customer service, merchandise selection, and value. Bob Ward's has every brand and everything you need to run, climb, hunt, hike, camp, fish, ski, paddle, everything you do outdoors. Open 7 days a week in Missoula, Bozeman, Butte, Helena, and Hamilton. Or online 24/7 at bobwards.com. Gear up at Bob Ward's, a Montana tradition of adventure since 1917.
Yo, what's up, Montana? Coulter Nuanez from ESPN Radio, host of your favorite daily sports talk show, Nuanez Now. We're happy to announce we're rolling over the Montana Football Hour into the Montana Basketball Hour. That's right, the first hour of each Monday's show on Nuanez Now. We'll be talking all things Big Sky Conference hoops, particularly when it comes to the Grizzlies and the Bobcats. So be sure to tune in 4 p.m. every Monday for the Montana Basketball Hour, proudly presented by the Advocates. Remember, you're not alone. You have an advocate.
For 4 years running, Coulter Nuanez and the team at ESPN Missoula have captured the E.B. Craney Award for Radio Sports Coverage of the Year. Each Wednesday on Nuanez Now, the featured long-form interview of the week takes center stage. Tune in to Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula or SWX Montana Television to hear the Montana Radio Sportscaster of the Year conduct an in-depth interview with prominent sports figures from around Montana. The ESPN Roundtable during the 5 o'clock hour each Wednesday on Nuanez Now is proudly presented by Paradise Falls.
It's Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Watch the show statewide on SWX Montana Television.
I'm not a player, I just crush a lot. Hey, yo, I'm still not a player, but you still a hater. Elevator to the top, high. See you later.
The second playoff game of your Saturday in the NFL features, I actually thought this was surprising. For the first time ever in the playoffs, the New England Patriots versus the Buffalo Bills. The game will be played in Buffalo, New York. So this is a little big pun for you here on Nuanez Now. He's from upstate New York. I know there's all sorts of rappers you can choose from New York, especially NYC. I mean, Jay-Z, Notorious B.I.G. Let's play a little game, though, where the hosting NFL team, we picked a hip-hop artist or group from that area for your music here today on ESPN Radio. Hope you're having an awesome Friday. I'm Coulter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. You can find the largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest online at nwmsrocks.com. Go check out Northwest Motorsport online, nwmsrocks.com. It's been a long fall, but a fun fall. But one thing that we've been doing throughout the fall, but that we missed a few because I was either out of town or on vacation, is our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. So we'll hear from the half dozen that we hadn't had a chance to host here on ESPN Radio over the next couple weeks. Well, happy now for our latest edition of the Mattress Firm Student of the Week. And this week, we're joined by a young lady. She's a senior at Huntley Project High School. She's Macy Murphy. Macy, thanks so much for being with us. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. And we always like to start with the sport angle first if our student of the week is an athlete. And by the way, you don't have to necessarily be involved in athletics, but certainly need to be involved in some sort of activity. But Macy, you were a great volleyball player there at Huntley Project. And I've covered sports in the state of Montana for about 15 years now. And Huntley Project has just always been so fascinating to me because volleyball is just, so dominant there. I mean, basically every year you almost guarantee that Huntley Project's going to be the state champions of Class B. So what's it like being a part of a program like that, and why is it? Why is Huntley Project so consistently good in volleyball?
It's a huge deal to be a part of the program. It's such a great program. And Stookie and all the assistant coaches and the volunteers, they've had a great program going on for years, and she starts with the elementary, so it's not like they get into high school not knowing what they're doing or not knowing what's expected. She has them start AAU in about 4th grade, so we know what's coming, even at a really young age, and it's just a great opportunity to be part of a great program like that.
No question. And undefeated this year as a senior and 3 times state champions during your career for Huntley Project. Did it feel different, though, this year, being that it was your senior year, kind of your last chance to get another state title?
Yeah, it was a lot different just knowing that the pressure was mainly on the senior shoulders because last year we did have only 3 seniors, but it's still different just being the seniors on the team and having all the younger girls look up to you because we didn't have any juniors to share the, I guess, like all the pressure with. It was just us and the little girls.
Macy Murphy joining us. She's our Student of the Week. She was our 12th Student of the Week. We've now had 17 total Mattress Firm Student of the Weeks. And we're catching up here at Nuanez Now, but these are always available for you as well online at montanarightnow.com or via SWX. Their website always has it as well, and this is one of our favorite partnerships with SWX. We'll be naming Mattress Firm Student of the Weeks throughout this next spring semester. So we're 2 into our spring semester. Took a little break there in December, but Macy was our Mattress Firm Student of the Week back in November during the time when Huntley Project was making their great run. But Macy, you're also an outstanding track athlete. So take us through that. I mean, what events do you excel in? I know you've won state championships before, but what's sort of your specialties when it comes to track and field?
In track, the 100-meter hurdles are definitely my favorite, but I do jumps, and I do the 300 hurdles, 100 hurdles, and the short relay and long relay. It just kind of depends on the track meet and what my coach puts me in.
For sure, and that's kind of how it goes, especially when you're at a Class B school, too, because you do need to be at as many events as you can to score as many points as you can. But very cool for you. Do you prefer one sport to the other when it comes to volleyball and track?
Track, track started in junior high, but I've always loved volleyball, and Stuckey started when we were about in kindergarten. When we were in PE, she'd pull us aside, and we'd play volleyball instead of the PE game that we were supposed to play. So I definitely think volleyball is my number one sport.
Well, very cool. And tell us about just being involved with special education as well. I know your mom is a special education teacher, and she has also a first grade teacher as well. So, I mean, obviously education is a huge part of your life, but I mean, what do you like about that element, and how does that sort of empower you when you give back?
It's just a great feeling. Helping with the Special Olympics every year is so fun. The kids just are hilarious, and around our school, like, we know every kid. It's pretty much a super small school compared to a lot of other schools, so it's a lot nicer to know everyone, and then you can help out with a lot of stuff like that.
Macy Murphy joining us, Mattress Firm Student of the Week. She was our 12th Mattress Firm Student of the Week. We have 17 of them right now, so we'll be getting through some of the interviews that we missed during our time away over Christmas break, as well as covering the FCS playoffs. A lot of travel lately, so Mattress Firm Student of the Week nominees, you can submit them at mattressfirmmt.com/students. And again, we will have Mattress Firm Student of the Weeks each week throughout the rest of this spring semester. And at the end of the year, we'll have a Mattress Firm Student of the Year. And that comes with an awesome scholarship opportunity for Mattress Firm as well. So very cool. If you have a student that's involved in activities outside of the classroom as well, please nominate them. You can go on over again, mattressfirmmt.com/students. Macy, how about for you? What's next? Do you have any specific goals when it comes to the upcoming track and field season for your last competitive season of your senior year?
I haven't really set any goals yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to all the meets, and especially state and stuff, since it's the last one.
And for sure. And how about after high school is over? Do you have any idea what you might want to do, or do you want to go to college? Anything like that?
Yeah, Josie Hassler and we're going up to Northern to continue our volleyball careers. So that's going to be really fun.
Well, very cool. Always a great place. The Frontier Conference is excellent when it comes to opportunities for Montana kids in sports. So congratulations, Macy, on all your success. And congratulations again also on your Mattress Firm Student of the Week. Thanks so much for joining us here on Nuanez Now.
Thank you.
There you go, Macy Murphy, Huntley Project. What a dynasty the Huntley Project volleyball program has become. We're going to circle back around to Sophie Thatcher, a Butte Central senior, currently starting point guard for the Maroons, but also stand out in volleyball and softball as well. We're going to hear from her about 5:30 today, because we do got to get out. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. All things NFL, maybe even a little talk about Georgia and Alabama too. But the NFL playoffs are upon us. I can't wait. Favorites, underdogs, biggest disappointments, biggest surprises of the NFL season. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys. Jake Dubeck knows people, and because of his gift of getting to know anyone he crosses paths with, Jake Dubeck understands what makes Montana so great. The Montanans. Whether you're looking to buy or sell real estate in the Helena area, Jake Dubeck should be your first call. Any questions you might have, from the accelerating Montana real estate market to knowledge of the neighborhoods in and around the capital city, if you're in the Helena area, call Jake Dubeck at 406-465-5506. Jake, proud supporter of the Montana State Minute with Danny Sprinkle.
Choosing where to bank is a no-brainer. Choose the bank that's been helping Western Montana grow since 1907. Choose Farmer State Bank. We have a lot more to offer than just history. Count on Farmer State Bank for innovative traditional, mobile, and online products designed to meet your needs. For personal banking options or business solutions, choose Farmer State Bank. 9 brick-and-mortar locations and online at farmersebank.com. An equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regularly sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support. Brought to you by the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling on it.
The dad joke. Corny, groan-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
What did the buffalo say when he dropped his son off for school? Bye, son.
So take a moment to make your kid laugh, because dad jokes rule. Make your kid laugh today. Go to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hellgate swept Sentinel in the latest crosstown hoops matchups in the Garden City. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. The Hellgate girls basketball team remains undefeated and tightened their grip on the number 2 ranking in Class AA by breezing past the Spartans 54-26 on Thursday night. The Knights exploded to a 26-6 halftime lead and cruised from there, moving to 6-0 with the win. Alex Coville scored 13 points, Bailey Sayre added 12, and Lauren Dick chipped in 11 for the Knights. Hellgate, last season's AA runner-up, has won its games this season by an average of nearly 29 points. The Hellgate and Sentinel girls rematch on February 11th at Dahlberg Arena in Missoula. In the boys game, Asher Top scored 20 points and Dre Bowie added 13 to help the Hellgate boys to a 66-54 win over number 5 Sentinel. The Knights used a 26-10 second quarter advantage to widen the gap against the Spartans, who were led by Caden Sheridan's 13 points. Earlier this week, Sentinel swept Big Sky in boys and girls hoops in the first crosstown games for 2022. And finally, the Big Sky Conference basketball games between Montana and Montana State's men's basketball teams, scheduled against Southern Utah for Thursday and Saturday respectively, were postponed due to COVID-19 issues in the SUU program. The Lady Grizz game scheduled Thursday at SUU was also postponed, and on Thursday evening, the final game of the weekend involving a Montana school was put on hold as MSU's women's game at SUU was paused. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
Sometimes you gotta stay in, and you know where I live. Yeah, you know what we is. Sometimes you gotta stay in. Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down. We don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house.
Your third NFL playoff game of the weekend. The first game on Sunday Kicks off at 11 a.m. Our guy, Andrew Houghton, our producer here at ESPN Missoula, his Eagles, his Philadelphia Eagles, Regime hates that. It's their biggest point of contention. Plays at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, as we have all Nuanez now so far today, we're playing you back in with songs by artists from the regions of the hosting team. So, in other words, Tampa Bay's in Florida. So, we're listening to some Flo Rida here on a Friday. It is Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. My main man, Rajim Seabrook, back in the saddle, kicking it with me here from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport, new to Missoula, new to Montana. You can find them here in the Garden City at the corner of Stevens and Mount. Or you can visit online, nwmsrocks.com. That's nwmsrocks.com. Time now for a little all football all the time. Presented proudly by Sportsbet Montana. These Sportsbet machines, man, I'm telling you, they're fun. It's really fun to just learn the odds and learn how all the teases work. It's a fun exercise in math and numbers. It also just keeps you involved in the games. And, maybe you're watching the game with a buddy and you don't really have a dog in the fight. You don't really care. Go throw a couple bucks on it. I bet you start caring. There's Sportsbet Montana kiosks all across the state of Montana. All your favorite establishments and watering holes. You can also visit the Sportsbet Montana website, and they'll give you a list of where all the kiosks are at. So, Sportsbet Montana proudly presenting all football all the time for the duration of football season here on Nuanez Now. Reggie, before we get into the rest of these playoff matchups, I want to ask you, both sides of the coin. First, disappointments. To you, who are the biggest disappointments in the NFL this year?
The Giants, first and foremost.
Yeah. But
you got to start where it hits hardest.
Did anybody outside the fan base think they were going to be good, though?
I think people
really?
Look on paper, they should have been better than what they were.
Yeah.
And
they were 4-13 this year. What would have been a satisfactory record?
They should have won 3 more games, at least 3 to 4 more games, at least. But they didn't. And it is what it is. But, yeah, that would be my one biggest disappointment. Seattle Seahawks, big disappointment. On paper, again, they've got the horses to lead them to victory, but COVID and injuries at major spots hurt them.
Yep.
So
I did this on the show solo earlier. So, actually, I'm glad you brought up those two teams because those two teams were disappointing. And neither one was on my list of my top 5.
Oh, that's good.
I'll give you a couple of my most disappointing teams. The Baltimore Ravens.
That was my next one. And
to lose 6 straight is very
uncharacteristic.
It's very uncharacteristic. I mean, that was
very much so.
Part of it was Lamar Jackson both being injured and his COVID saga. But still, it was crazy to see them lose 6 in a row down the stretch.
Yeah, go ahead. Who was your other one? I want to see.
I also had the Minnesota Vikings because I think if you have Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen, you should be a playoff team.
Feel the same way about the Saints.
The Saints are pretty right there. Yeah, they had so much drama at quarterback, though, so you can at least pinpoint more like what their issue was volatility.
Fair enough.
The other 3 I had were the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yes.
Because I just think if you have that guy playing quarterback, if you got Justin Herbert playing quarterback, that you should be in the playoffs.
Playoffs every year, period.
I mean, he's so good that it's actually
we're good on that.
It's a shame that he's not in the playoffs because I wanted to watch him more. I think he is one of the rising talents in the National Football League. My number 2 most disappointing team of the year was the Cleveland Browns.
Dude, come on.
A lot of people had Cleveland not only winning the division, but also one of the top teams in the league.
Yep.
And they were not. They finished at 8-9. From the Odell Beckham drama to the Baker Mayfield volatility, both as a player and because of his injury propensity. When you got all the dudes like they got, you just got to be better than what they were.
That's called too many divas.
Too many divas,
way
for sure.
Too many divas.
What do you think of this dynamic too, though? Because I do think that the Browns are struggling to get over the top because they had no expectations forever, and then when this group first started to rise, like when Myles Garrett started coming of age and Baker Mayfield started at least sort of emerging,
yeah,
and when Hugh Jackson got fired after losing 30 straight games or something crazy, and then they won like 5 or 6 games down the stretch that year. That's so far exceeding expectations, but now they've just been stuck at a 500 for the last couple of years. They made the playoffs 2 years ago, but I just think that the biggest thing standing in their way is they have no idea how to handle these expectations. They know they're supposed to be good, and that's part of the reason why they're not.
Part of it is they lack identity. They want to retain an identity from the Bernie Kosar era, and there's
it's interesting, yeah.
There's been no change in the culture of mind state in Cleveland, and until they have again a leader down there and some sort of identity from one of their players, Cleveland's always going to be mediocre at best. When you look at that roster of the amount of number one draft picks, and they were big ballers.
Yeah,
you guys should be tearing up the league
for sure,
hands down.
There also is a situation too, though, like when you do stackpile draft picks like that, where you got to win now, because when Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and Jadeveon Clowney and Nick Chubb and all these dudes are up for new contracts, you're not going to be able to pay them all.
Yeah.
So you got to win now. Their window is shrinking for sure. My number one most disappointing team, though, and I know why they fell apart, and I know why they fell apart because they were the first team in NFL history to do an in-season Hard Knocks. But the Indianapolis Colts were my number one most disappointing team. Part of why I think that they were so disappointing is because I did watch all 9 episodes of this Hard Knocks, so I got to see how good they are. Also, though, that's why I say I know why they fell apart for them. When you watch the actual Hard Knocks, the way it goes in and out, because Indianapolis is such a central hub as a city, they've had some of the worst COVID issues of anybody in the country. Indianapolis Colts then have had rampant COVID. Their entire offensive line was out with COVID. There was a game in which they played all their dressed offensive linemen. If a guy would have went down, they wouldn't have had another guy. The only 5 guys that were dressed, the only 5 guys they had. And so that's not a great situation. They also had an incredible tragedy. Carson Wentz, Ryan Kelly, and another one of their offensive linemen, all 3 of their wives were pregnant. And then Ryan Kelly, the center, he lost his baby, and he had to take a leave of absence. That also was a huge hit to them. All of that said, though, when you lead the NFL in Pro Bowl selections, and you got everything from the best offensive line in football to one of the most dominant running backs in the league, in Jonathan Taylor, to an awesome receiving core with guys like Michael Pittman and T.Y. Hilton, to then a defense with 2 of the biggest interior stars there are in the league, in DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard, you got to be in the playoffs. You have to. I mean, they have a Super Bowl level roster, and they're not in the playoffs. So despite all of that adversity, I thought they're very disappointed. But you're right. The one thing that's so striking to me, my brother was talking about this. We are in the Seattle media market more than any. We're not quite in the actual Seattle media market, but
close enough.
It's the biggest media market close to us, right? Like more of the Seattle stuff matriculates here than even Denver or Salt Lake City. Like you have more of a pulse of what's going on in Washington in general, basically, because of the Seattle news cycle. Also, though, we also get Seattle Seahawks games on TV more often than almost any other game, just because of where we're at.
Right. It's our regional.
We're regional. The Seahawks, even though I've never liked the Seahawks much, they've always been consistently good. They've been a 10 or 11 win playoff team every year of the Pete Carroll era until this year. Like my brother was saying, though, it's going to be brutal for people that just watch football in Montana that aren't like Red Zone or Sunday Ticket people. They just watch the games on network, which even though I'm a huge NFL fan, I do. I just watch the games that are on network TV. That's great. I'll watch the game of the week. Fine with me. But when it's Seattle and they suck, that's going to really suck for all of us out here because they were not good this year, and it was brutal to watch. It was brutal just how much we had to absorb of all of it.
Yeah, you get Seattle, you get Denver. I mean, because those are the regional teams. Yeah, interesting year for Seattle, definitely. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. I'm hoping my man Russ ends up in a Giants jersey. I will take it.
You think so? Is that in the cards?
Buddy, I don't know. I think
he's going to Vegas.
You think he's going to Vegas? I think either Russ or Baker Mayfield may end up in a Giants jersey.
Would you like Baker Mayfield?
You know, personality-wise, he fits New York a bit more.
He does. Is he actually even good, though, is my question.
I don't know.
I don't think he is.
How do you have Kareem, Nick Chubb,
he's kind of isn't good, man.
Yeah, I know, and like they gave him the pieces around. I'm not sure, brother.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Okay, so before we move into some of these playoff games,
biggest surprises.
Let's talk about the biggest surprises. I have mine in front of me, but I'll let you go first. Who's
Tom Brady? Like, is my number one. I mean, just his numbers and what he is doing at his age. Like, he just constantly defies logic and at this point, physics.
And they had no Super Bowl hangover either.
None.
Which is crazy. I mean,
None.
Usually the reigning Super Bowl champ has a dip or somebody figures something out. I mean, even the Chiefs went through it for the first time this year.
Yeah.
They've been to multiple Super Bowls in a row. They had a little dip this year. They got to figure back out. But Tampa Bay had the second best record in the NFL.
I know, man. Philadelphia making the playoffs. No disrespect to Andrew. Like,
100%.
I just didn't think that
They were my number 2 surprise.
Yeah, on paper, I'm just like, how does this even happen? Number 3 was how bad Jared Goff was. Like, outside, like, I was shocked. And granted, Detroit, where careers go to die, it was
like my brother always says, though, who's he got to throw to?
I know,
we can't even, like, we're both big-time NFL fans. I cannot name a receiver on the Detroit line.
Oh, what's the rookie? Amon St. Brown or something like that? I don't know.
I don't know. I have nothing. I decided to treat myself nicely on Sundays this year and not watch the Lions if they're ever on TV.
Yeah, man. So that was a big surprise to not see him. That was a big surprise. Surprise not being able to see Lamar Jackson be Lamar Jackson. I think the injury bug caught up with him, but I also think a few years of film caught up with him too. People learning how to play him differently.
Yeah.
Forcing him to not rely on his legs as much and making him have to win the game from the pocket. So that was a surprise. And then my other surprise was how good Matt Jones was at
For
times.
sure. That was my number 5 team was the New England Patriots.
That's why we work well together. Give me some. I love you. Let's go.
Mean, it was a huge gamble for New England to roll the dice like that, and they went through some growing pains early, and they're rolling along pretty good, man. Like,
he's good.
The Patriots got a road game this week. I actually was surprised by this. You'll like this as a native New Yorker.
Kick it.
This is the first time the Patriots and the Bills have ever played in the playoffs. Isn't that kind of surprising? They're from the same division, so maybe it's not surprising at all,
It's
right?
not surprising, but it's surprising at the same time.
Part of it, though, is also because New England was never relevant in the 70s, 80s, or in early 90s. And then...
No, in the early 90s, they were pretty relevant.
Well, when
Jim Kelly was there.
No question. Well, no, I'm saying the Patriots. The Patriots.
Oh, the Patriots. Yeah,
the Patriots
irrelevant.
were sort of irrelevant in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And then the Bills were really good in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And then the Bills didn't make the playoffs for 20 years in a row, and then the rise of the Patriots happened.
Right. Okay, I get what you're saying.
So I guess there is that part makes it make a little bit more sense. But anyways, though, I think that the winner of that Patriots-Bills game is one of the favorites in the AFC. I really do.
Oh, hands down. And I'm tipping my hat to the boys up in Buffalo. I'm hoping they win, man. I like Josh Allen.
I love me some Josh Allen.
Yeah, he's fun to watch.
For
and
sure.
Stephon Diggs.
I love Stephon Diggs, too. Wish he was with the Vikings still. My 5 biggest surprises were New England Patriots, number 5, the Dallas Cowboys at number 4, only because because the hype machine of the Dallas Cowboys is nauseating.
Ad nauseum.
I mean, the fact that it is so prolific is crazy. The fact that their owner, I mean, we watch more freaking press conferences of Jerry Jones than most of the head coaches in the league.
He's Darth Sidious. He's like the evil, he's Palpatine of the NFL.
And all that's to say, though, usually that pressure makes the Cowboys crumble.
Yeah.
And then they had Hard Knocks in the offseason, and Dak Prescott, not only with his ankle injury, but also his huge contract, but also the suicide of his brother. I mean, it was a huge year for him, and he came through. I mean, he's a bona fide MVP candidate, and they are a bona fide Super Bowl contender. So I hate the Cowboys just as much as you, man, but they always get crushed by the weight of their own expectations, and this year they didn't. That's why they're one of my biggest surprises. My 3rd was the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, I don't want to glorify or romanticize the adversity that they overcame because it was all self-inflicted and none of it was good. I mean, Henry Ruggs...
Oh, good, buddy.
Just so dumb. It's beyond dumb. It's horrific and tragic to kill an innocent person just because you want to drive them down the street 150 miles per hour. But also, the whole John Gruden thing was disgusting. And so, it's not like this feel-good story that the Raiders overcame all that adversity, but they are a huge surprise to be in the playoffs because all that stuff happens, you think, well, and then you're in Vegas, ship it up the creek, but they made it happen, and they won a huge game last Sunday to punch a playoff ticket.
Yeah, they're the Cinderella story of the league right now, especially given the polarity of things that you can look at for their team. And that's just the stuff that was publicized.
Right.
So if that's the stuff that was publicized, you can magnify that by 10 for how it was in-house.
No question. Then my number 1 biggest surprise of the year was the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think
no doubt.
I think that people expected them to be improved. I don't think anybody thought they were going to win that division.
And in the fashion they did.
I mean, everybody was in the mix to win that division except the Bengals. Everybody thought it was going to be Ravens, Browns, Steelers, not Bengals, and it was Bengals that win the division. But they also destroyed the Ravens twice on the way to that division title. They destroyed the Browns once. So even though they finished with just the 11, well, I shouldn't say just, but 11 victories, it's not crazy. They're not a 13 or 14 win team. But the wins that they did have, man, they're dangerous. Look out. In the playoffs, they're going to be something to be reckoned with for sure.
They are so fun to watch.
They are fun.
Like, that's what, like, Super Tecmo Bowl and NFL Street looks like. If there was a hybrid, it's this offense. And I don't know. They make football on a professional level fun to watch, even if you're not a Bengal fan.
Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. I'm Coulter Nuanez. We're coming to you from the Northwest Motorsports Studio. Rajim Seabrook in studio with me. More NFL talk coming up a little bit later, especially in terms of breaking down the actual playoff games. But a couple notes just in terms of individual leaders now that the regular season is closed. That's the other thing that's fun, where it's all football all the time, presented by Sportsbet Montana. And that's a fun part of those Sportsbet kiosks by Sportsbet Montana as well. You can bet before the season various player props. So this is my favorite one. I put $5 on Cooper Kupp to lead the league in receiving yards and catches, just because I know him and I knew he's a good player. I did not expect no one expected anyone, let alone a guy from Eastern Washington, to catch 141 balls for
ridiculous.
I mean, he caught 145 passes for 1,947 yards and 16 touchdowns. I mean, that's like one of the 5 greatest seasons in the history of the league.
Well, finish your thought and finish your story, but I got a question
I put $5 on that, and I think I got it at like 40-1 odds, so I'm going to win like a couple $100 on that bet, which is super cool. But all that's to say, you can't put fun prop bets on before, so go do that at Sportsbet Montana. You can get it done for any and every sport. Very fun. Gives you something to look forward to, something to monitor. But a couple notes just in terms of league leaders. Tom Brady did lead the NFL in passing. 5,316 yards.
Woo.
Justin Herbert, the only other guy to throw for more than 5,000. Rushing leader by a just ridiculous margin, almost 600 yards. Jonathan Taylor wins the rushing title. 1,811 yards for the Colts' second-year running back. Nick Chubb comes in at second with 1,259. Joe Mixon, 1,205. And Najee Harris for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and even 1,200. Of course, Kupp, 1,947 yards, a full 300 and something more than Justin Jefferson for the receiving yards. And your defensive leader is probably the most impactful statistic of the season defensively. TJ Watt ties the one and only Michael Strahan single season record for sacks in a season, 22 and a half,
baby, 22.5.
So there you go. There's some of your NFL leaders. Take a step outside of football. One more student of the week for you. Sophie Thatcher, young lady from Butte Central High School, will join us next, and we'll take you home, getting you all set up. Thoughts and analysis on all 6 NFL playoff games. Keep it right here. It's ESPN Radio. Do you remember how fond you were of your baseball cards as a kid? To recapture that feeling, swing into Zootown Sports Cards. Missoula's premier trading card shop carries all the products you will need for collecting, whether you are renewing an old hobby, just getting started, or looking for a fun activity for your kids. With inventory that is updated regularly, Zootown Sports Cards has the best selections at the best prices anywhere in the valley. Open from noon till 6 on Tuesday through Friday and 10 to 6 on Saturdays. Come check out Zootown Sports Cards at South Avenue in Higgins, across from Dornblazer Field. Snow on the roads, cold temperatures, and distracted driving, it's all a recipe for disaster. If you've been injured in a car accident and it wasn't your fault, you're not alone. The Advocates are on your side. The Advocates will handle the details of your case, so all you need to do is relax and get better. No need to stress. Calling the Advocates doesn't cost you a dime, so you have nothing to lose. Call today, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve an advocate.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
This is Colter Nuanez from ESPN Missoula, here to introduce the third rendition of our Grizz Greats podcast series. Over the last few years, ESPN Missoula has presented long-form podcast series with historic interviews from Grizz Greats, the coaching tree, chronicling Judd Heathcote's awesome lineage for the University of Montana men's basketball program, to Grizz Greats, the silver anniversary of the 1995 national champion Grizzlies. This fall, ESPN Missoula is proud to present Grizz Greats, the 20th anniversary of the 2001 national champion Grizzlies. It's been 20 years since Montana last captured a Division I football title, and many men who contributed to that epic run back in 2001 remain memorable figures in the history of the Grizz football program. Please join me, Colter Nuanez, for a 20-part podcast series chronicling the 20th anniversary of Montana's 2001 national championship. Grizz Greats, the 20th anniversary, is proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications and First Security Bank of Missoula.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that. Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hellgate swept Sentinel in the latest crosstown hoops matchups in the Garden City. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. The Hellgate girls basketball team remains undefeated and tightened their grip on the number 2 ranking in Class AA by breezing past the Spartans 54-26 on Thursday night. The Knights exploded to a 26-6 halftime lead and cruised from there, moving to 6-0 with the win. Alex Coville scored 13 points, Bailey Sayer added 12, and Lauren Dick chipped in 11 for the Knights. Hellgate, last season's AA runner-up, has won its games this season by an average of nearly 29 points. The Hellgate and Sentinel girls rematch on February 11th at Dahlberg Arena in Missoula. In the boys game, Asher Topp scored 20 points and Dre Bowie added 13 to help the Hellgate boys to a 66-54 win over number 5 Sentinel. The Knights used a 26-10 second quarter advantage to widen the gap against the Spartans, who were led by Caden Sheridan's 13 points. Earlier this week, Sentinel swept Big Sky and boys and girls hoops in the first crosstown games for 2022. And finally, the Big Sky Conference basketball games between Montana and Montana State's men's basketball teams, scheduled against Southern Utah for Thursday and Saturday respectively, were postponed due to COVID-19 issues in the SUU program. The Lady Grizz game scheduled Thursday at SUU was also postponed, and on Thursday evening, the final game of the weekend involving a Montana school was put on hold as MSU's women's game at SUU was paused. This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Selway Armory.
Tricks on ya.
Here's the game. The game is the teams that are hosting NFL playoff games, including the Dallas Cowboys, who host the San Francisco 49ers, 2:30 p.m. on Sunday. Game can be found on CBS, by the way. We then choose an artist, a hip-hop artist, with association from that place. So the Dallas Cowboys hosting San Francisco. So we're playing you some Ghetto Boys on the way back here on a Friday. It's Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez coming to you from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport, largest inventory of trucks anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. You can always check out that inventory by visiting them online, nwmsrocks.com. More NFL to come, but first, well, time now for the continuation of one of our favorite series here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio. It's our Mattress Firm Student of the Week, and we profile high school athletes from across the state of Montana each week in association with both SWX Television as well as ABC Fox Montana. You can always find the television versions of these stories, MontanaRightNow.com, and you can always nominate athletes at mattressfirmmt.com/students. Our Mattress Firm Student of the Week, this is actually dating back to the week of Christmas, the second to last week of December. Sophie Thatcher, she's a senior at Butte Central High School. Sophie, thank you so much for being with us. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. We'll start with the here and now because I know you're a 3-sport athlete playing volleyball as well as basketball and softball, but it's basketball season. And I know yesterday when I was texting you to set up this interview, you mentioned you had a game last night. So how did it go? What happened with Butte Central last night?
So we played in Anaconda, and we ended up losing. We were tied 32-32 going into the fourth quarter, but we just had no legs, and Anaconda's a pretty good team. And so much credit to them. They played really well. They hit their shots, and just couldn't say the same for us.
Going back to when I was in high school, Anaconda was always an incredibly tough place to play. I'm sure it still is. And obviously when Butte Central shows up, big-time rivalry. So could you feel it in the gym last time? I mean, is it still a pretty tough place to play?
Oh, yeah. Their student section, they were on you the whole time and will let you hear it if you messed up. It definitely was something else to play against. But it's always fun playing against, because I have family over there, so it's always fun playing in front of them and just having everyone there.
Well, you gotta love it. I love the old school rivalries like that because Butte Central and Anaconda, that goes deep for sure. Sophie Thatcher joined us. She's our Mattress Firm Stew of the Week here on Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. Overall, though, I mean, you've lived a life of basketball. I'm assuming you're related to most of the Thatchers that have played hoops in the mining city. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the most part.
Basically required then, right? If you're a Thatcher, you got to play basketball if you're growing up in Butte, right?
Yeah, there's no getting out of it.
You got to love it. Well, when did you first fall in love with things? I know you've been playing your whole life. So, I mean, what about basketball do you love? And when did you first know that was something that you really wanted to make a part of your life?
Yeah, so I've been playing since third grade. And just like, I don't know, I've always just been around my friends. And it's always something my family and I have bonded over. So it just makes me closer to all my people around me. So that's why I love it. It's just such a family atmosphere as well. And just being around everyone just makes it really fun.
Well, that's awesome. Very cool. How about volleyball? I mean, how'd you guys do in volleyball this year, and what was that season like for you?
We did all right. We didn't do as well as we hoped. We were hoping to make it out of districts, and we ended up not making it out. But it was super fun. We took second in our conference, I believe, second or third. And that was big for us because we came into it. We graduated 7 seniors, I believe, last year. And so it was just everyone wasn't expecting anything from us. And then we came out and we proved everyone wrong. So that was the best part about it.
Mattress Firm Stew of the Week. This is our 14th one. We have 17 total so far, each and every week in association with ABC Fox Montana. We here at ESPN Radio highlight students from across the great state of Montana. And you don't have to be an athlete necessarily, but you do have to be a good student first and foremost, and then involved in your community in some way secondly. And so anybody that's involved in activities and gives back to their community, certainly go nominate that great high school student. You can find nomination forms at mattressfirmmt.com/students. And right now we're being joined by Sophie Thatcher. She's a senior at Butte Central High School. And Sophie, I know you're involved in your community quite a bit as well. So just tell people some of the stuff you've done to give back. So I know that you've been involved in food drives around the Thanksgiving time, and also you've helped plan a lot of events at your high school as well. So what sort of things have you done outside of the world of sports?
Yeah, so we obviously put on our clothing drive and food drive at the school, and that was just everyone brought in either some food or some clothes, and we just donated it. And then last year, when we played Anaconda, or maybe 2 years ago, Gabby Stetzner's was recently diagnosed with cancer, and so we did a fundraiser for her, and then all the proceeds went to her. And then this year for volleyball, we did a fundraiser for Abby Ricketts, who graduated from Butte High last year, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we did a pink out game, and all the proceeds that we made went straight to her.
Well, very cool. Very awesome that you're so engaged and giving back, and always great to give back to great communities across the state of Montana. Sophie Thatcher, Butte Central senior, joining us here on Nuanez Now. What's next? When's your guys' next game for Butte Central, and what's sort of on the horizon for the rest of basketball season?
So we play this weekend in Stevensville, and then next week we got a big week they're both doubleheaders against Dillon and Hamilton. And Dillon is away in Dillon, and Hamilton is home. So those
Very
are
cool.
some
Bunch
pretty
of
big games
awesome
to get
Class
going
A action coming at you, which will be very sweet. So best of luck with all of it, Sophie. And thanks so much for making some time. I know you're very busy with all the sports and activities you're involved in, but thanks so much for being here with us on ESPN Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sophie Thatcher, Butte's finest, Butte Central, high school senior. You want to nominate a student? A high school student? Head on over to mattressfirmmt.com/students. That's mattressfirmmt.com/students. We have 17 Student of the Weeks picked so far. We have heard from 13 of them here on Nuanez Now. Next week, we'll hear from Darby Hannon, who's a senior at Bozeman High School, as well as Forrest Swaro, who is a senior at Helena High. Both of those folks, talked to them earlier today. We'll play those interviews for you next week. And also expecting to hear from Lauren Dick as well, Missoula Hellgate girls basketball player, who is our current Student of the Week. So playing some catch-up, but always love highlighting some of the best students and some of the best young people around the state of Montana. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. I'm Colter Nuanez. Hope you have an outstanding Friday. I'm having a great time hanging out with my main man, Rajim Seabrook, who will be back with us here in just a minute. We will go through each and every of the playoff football games Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. They got a full dose. You're going to get your fix this weekend. Who are the favorites? Any underdogs that could pull the upset? How do we see all this stuff playing out? More NFL talk to finish out the week. Keep it right here. It's ESPN Radio. Hey, it's Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now. I'm here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. And Brent, you guys have been the official realtors of Grizz Athletics for quite some time. What most do you like about supporting the Grizz in Missoula?
Born and raised here in Missoula. I grew up 2 blocks off campus. A lot of us Montana kids were growing up on weekends in the fall. You're out in the woods hunting. I was sitting in Dorm Blazer and then Washington Grizzly Stadium watching the Grizz. I grew up with Grizz in my blood. It's just a wonderful part of our community and happy to be a part of it.
Give the Wahlberg team a call today, 529-4663. Whether you're in the restaurant business or you just want to host any big event, J&V Restaurant Supply can make sure you have everything you need. J&V Restaurant Supply is your home for everything kitchen. Whether you're a bear or a bobcat, an eagle or a Scotty, J&V Restaurant has everything you might need. They have locations in Bozeman, Billings, and Great Falls. But if you can't make it in, J&V also has a great website, jvrestaurant.com. Get everything you need for your next event at J&V, your restaurant specialists. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community, and they want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. When it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway, and Miller today. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Coral here from The Stone. There's nothing like a pre-ski at The Stone. Warm up by the fire with a hot toddy or check out our happy hour daily from 3 to 6 p.m., 7 days a week. $2.50 wells, $4 house wines, and specialty tap beers for $3. Or come in for lunch, dinner, and try our Alaskan halibut, our classic shepherd's pie. Delicious food and drinks are waiting for you at The Stone. Just a stone's throw away on North Reserve. Visit thestoneofaccord.com for info on specials. See you at The Stone.
Hi there, it's Les Schwab Tires, introducing the new Backcountry AT2 for a quieter ride with improved performance in wet conditions. Because when it comes to keeping your family safe on the road this winter, the right tires help you feel prepared for anything.
Mom? Hey, Mom.
Well, almost anything. Plus, save up to $130 when you buy Quatrack tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires. Limited time offer. Terms and conditions apply. See leschwab.com/sale for details.
Local dance troupe Bear Bait Dance returns to the stage for their first live show since 2019 with Springboard, a company choreography showcase. Springboard features the talented Bear Bait Dance Company members and local guest artists like Joy French, Tiki Preston, Faith Morrison, and more. Springboard 2022 celebrates the creative visions of some of Missoula's most inspired dance makers with 8 new contemporary works. Now through January 23rd at the Westside Theater. Details and tickets at bearbaitdance.org.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
I think a lot of people would probably argue like John Fogerty, Center Field, as the greatest baseball song of all time. But this right here, I think, is the greatest baseball song of all time. I mean, the pride of the St. Louis Cardinals, you coming from the guy from St. Louis. It's a very creative song.
I'm going to swing back to the Northeast, and I need my man Andrew Houghton. Crooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah, that's good too, for sure. No.
Feels so good to be a Crooklyn Dodger. What happened to Rerun and Roger? Come on now.
You gotta love it. Nuanez Now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hope you're having an awesome day. Hope you had a great week. Thanks so much for kicking it with us. Rajim Seabrook in studio with me, Colter Nuanez. Here's the remedy. Here's the method. Here's the way we've been doing this. We've been taking rap artists, hip-hop artists, from the area of where each NFL playoff game is being hosted, and then playing you some tunes from said region. So the Kansas City Chiefs, that's your fifth game that we've gone over here so far today. They are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday Night Football, NBC. And, of course, Kansas City's in Missouri, so St. Louis. And so we're playing a little Nelly for you, St. Louis finest. Hope you're enjoying our fun times. We always like to, theme it up for you here, especially when it comes to Hip Hop Fridays with the main man, Rajim. Again, here's another look at the playoff games for this weekend. Playoffs begin. Las Vegas Raiders at the Cincinnati Bengals, 2:30 p.m. Saturday. That one's on NBC. The Patriots play at the Bills, 6:15 on Saturday night. That one's on CBS. The Eagles play at the Bucks at 11 a.m. on Sunday. That one's on Fox. The 49ers play at the Cowboys. That's 2:30 p.m. That one's on CBS. And the Steelers play at the Chiefs. That one's 6:15 p.m. NBC, Sunday Night Football. And then they did us right. I guess on Monday night playoff action.
The first time ever?
Is that really?
In the history of the NFL?
I was thinking it must be because I haven't remember that happening.
It's got to be.
So that's fun.
Let's do it.
It's also a divisional rivalry game because it's the Arizona Cardinals at the Los Angeles Rams. So Monday Night Football, 6:15, right here, ESPN. So I don't know if you remember this. Back in the summer, though, on July 1st, I proclaimed that if I was a betting man, that my money would be going on the Los Angeles Rams to win the NFC. You wrote it on a little piece of paper, put it up there in the frame, so you could call me, so you could call me out about it. And I don't know, man. It's looking better and better. I don't think the Rams are a definitive.
I love that.
I don't think the Rams are a definitive favorite, but I do think they are one of the contenders in the NFC. So let's break this thing down. Let's just go game by game. First of all, the Raiders, their win last week over the Chargers, not only did it clinch a playoff spot, it also helped them dodge the Chiefs. That's a good thing.
Huge bullet missed.
It's a good thing because the the Raiders got ramshackled by the Chiefs this year. They lost by a total of 6 touchdowns when the two teams played. So they probably would have been 12, 14-point dogs going on the road. Instead, now they're, I think, a 5-point favorite. Last time I looked. Alex, you get the lines up here while we discuss this. But what do you think of this matchup? Because the Raiders, I really think Derek Carr's turned the corner this year. I think he's overcome a lot given all the volatility that occurred on their coaching staff. They have some weapons, and those guys guys were hurt, and they're back to healthy. Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller back at least closer to full health. That said, when the Bengals are at their best, they're one of the best teams in the league.
Well, it's like I said in one of the last 2 segments. To me, the Raiders are the Cinderella story of the playoffs right now. And from the AFC, even though there are teams that are, the Chiefs are better, the Bengals are better, right now, that's the team I don't want to play. Like they to me, they have the least amount to lose and the most amount to gain. And to me, that's the dog. When I look into the kennel, that's the dog I don't want to have come out.
No question about it. That's the first game. That's at 2:30 on Saturday. Then we got the AFC East showdown. There's a couple different divisional games basically in this first round, including the New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills, as well as that Monday night game between the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. But Patriots-Bills is an interesting one because I want to believe, and at times have had it reinforced, that the Bills are absolutely an AFC title contender and a Super Bowl contender. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they also leave something to be desired, though, too. It's so perplexing to me that they can't run the ball. They don't even try to really run the ball. That's fine because Josh Allen's so talented, and it's also fine when you play half your games not in Buffalo, New York. But when you get to the playoffs and you had the record they had, They're going to have to be able to run the ball because they're going to sit in Buffalo. I mean, it's just going to be so ironic if the elements crush them, even though they got a couple home games coming up here.
It's crazy how well they don't run the ball, but how well Josh Allen runs the ball when needed. It's this really weird paradox for a team, and when you look at the components of especially the passing game and the RPO stuff, a running back they should have a 1,000-yard rusher
for sure.
They should totally have a 1,000-yard rusher, yet they don't, and we'll see. I like that defense though. That defense is salty, and one of the best color rush uniforms in the NFL.
No question about it.
Hands down.
The Bills' defense is nice. They've had some outstanding performances.
Oh boy,
so far this year. They were among the best defenses in the league.
Won me a fantasy championship.
Yep, for sure. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Who do you have in it?
I got the Bills.
Oh, me too. Hands on.
I do think that. The Patriots are a dangerous team, though. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing I'm trying to get over is just because of the history of it all. I know the Bills have been on the rise, and they've been one of the hot teams in the league last couple years. But it's so hard to bet against Bill Belichick, right?
It's hard to bet against Bill Belichick, but it's also hard to have a rookie in the playoffs. It'd be interesting to see how he handles the spotlight, the level of competition, and everything that encompasses playing at that next level in the NFL.
Nuanez now, ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Raheem Seabrook riding with me here on a Friday. I'm Colter Nuanez. All right, Sunday's games. First, Eagles-Bucks.
Bucks.
Yeah, it's unlikely that it's an unlikely scenario that the Eagles are.
I just got dagger shot at me. I said, Andrew, watch your back. Watch your six.
Here's the thing, though, is the dominant story for Philly has been a largely unknown coach sort of revitalizing the franchise, but more importantly, Jalen Hurts proving to everybody that he is a legitimate NFL quarterback.
Absolutely.
The Eagles are much better on defense than people give them credit for. I mean, they're a top 10 defense. They're not a top 5 defense, but they're a top 10 defense. They're good. And
they're pretty good.
You know, former Montana State inside linebacker Alex Singleton, who's the starting inside linebacker for Philly, he's been good. Mm-hmm. They have good pieces on defense. That said, I just can't imagine that the Bucs aren't going to just be rolling. So, by the way, you wanted to mention something about Antonio Brown. I've never seen a scene like that, man. Like, you got some stuff going on if you're ending up half naked in the middle of a football stadium, man.
Looking like a fool with your pants on the ground. I tell you, man. I at first I looked at this man and I just wanted to kind of rant on top of him. But then at the end of the day, I also look at him and I felt sorry for him. To really think that everything in your world is always somebody else.
Right.
It's always the next person.
Sure.
It's always something, everyone, but it's never you. And at that point, man, I just feel sorry for him because that's, I hate to say, ladies and gentlemen, that's mental health at its
no question.
At its
or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. Yeah, there it is. And after watching those theatrics, for lack of a better term, it just made me realize I feel sorry for this guy. Like he just lives in a bubble where he thinks it's okay. And if not for anything else, like get him some help and stop. Like don't do the gifts. Don't make memes about stuff like that because it gives breath to life that doesn't need to have happen. And at the end of the day, I really feel sorry for this guy because he's hurting on the inside.
I saw the weirdest little mini video, like TikTok style video on Twitter.
Yeah.
It was Madonna, Floyd Mayweather, Kanye West, Julia Fox, and Antonio Brown.
Big personalities.
Like all laid up on a couch. They're just hanging out. Floyd Mayweather and Antonio Brown are just sitting right next to each other. And I just have so many questions. Who's hosting? Who invited everybody? Why are they all in the same place? I mean, That's pretty amazing to have Madonna and Kanye West sitting next to each other, but then, oh, by the way, Floyd Mayweather and Antonio Brown. Isn't that a weird video? Like, what is happening in this video? I don't even know what's happening.
I want to see the after party video.
Right? I know.
With those personalities, that's a wild
And they're
room.
all just like melting into the couch and like hugging each other and snuggling, and it is a very strange 15 seconds on Twitter.
Or is it CGI stuff, man? Because I just
yeah, right. I don't
because
even
right
know.
there's that many egos in the room and no one's been arrested or is dead. Like, are you kidding me?
I want to know who started the group text. Was Kanye like, "Yo, I'm gonna get Madonna and Antonio Brown together"? It's just so funny.
I don't know, man. What is that? Like, that's like a narcissist parade right there. All my fellow famous narcissists come hang out.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
It is hilarious. Okay, so the other two games on Sunday. One, an age-old rivalry renewed, the 49ers and Cowboys.
Man.
It's been a minute for the younger listeners out there. You might not remember, but it was 49ers Cowboys for the NFC for
gold and silver.
Long before I was alive, all the way through the 80s into the 1990s. I mean, it was 70s through the 90s. It was like the road to the NFC title. You had to go through either San Fran or Dallas, and likely one of the two, they were playing each other. And so it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out because the Cowboys been riding high, and they definitely deserve to have a home game. But I think that if the Niners can figure it out, I mean, it all comes down to one factor for the Niners. Does Jimmy Garoppolo
quarterback play
implode, or does he play adequately? Because if he plays adequately, they're so good across the board that they can beat anybody.
If Jimmy G plays the way his looks are, they'll win.
Touche.
Merci beaucoup.
The night game is probably actually the worst matchup. I actually can't believe they slotted this one at night. I thought they maybe should have flexed, I don't know, any of the games besides this one, because the Steelers are more than a 2-touchdown favorite going to Kansas City.
Yeah.
But you never know. This is likely Ben Roethlisberger's last hoorah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So he's not going to go out without swinging, at least a little bit.
Well, what I like about it is the polarity of it. You have one of the most prolific, sharp, up-and-coming quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes, and that you have one of the most decorated veterans of the game going out, and two-time Super Bowl winner, Ben Roethlisberger. So the young gun versus the old savvy, cagey veteran. I always like seeing that in the playoffs.
And finally, for my prediction to come true, it's going to take the Los Angeles Rams outlasting one of the most exciting teams in the NFL. That's the Arizona Cardinals. One of the best parts about Hard Knocks is listening to the position coaches talk about like players and like giving them nicknames. The D-line coach for the Colts, who's in the most recent Hard Knocks, his name eludes me right now, but he nicknamed Kyler Murray the Gingerbread Man because he kept saying,
catch me.
That's what he says. He kept singing the song while they're watching film. He said, run fast you can, can't catch me on the Gingerbread Man. And Kyler Murray would go all over the field.
The Roadrunner, man.
We got to make that stick, man. The Gingerbread Man. So funny. But, I mean, it all starts and ends with him. If Arizona's going to upset Los Angeles, it comes down to Kyler Murray, right?
Oh, he's the man down there. Number 7 is just magic. He's so fun to watch. And he's Doug Flutie with more athleticism. He's a bit undersized, but just plays well above his weight class, and it's just fun to watch. And I'm wanting the Cardinals to advance from that one.
Oh, football, it's presented by Sportsbet Montana. So is the Nuanez Now podcast. Makes you think of this awesome show today. All sorts of great talking points for you. Took you all the way around the wide world of sports. Some great thoughts, and also some great events happening on Monday for Martin Luther King Day that Rajim will be involved in. And we also talked some Student of the Weeks with both Macy Murphy from Huntley Project and Sophie Thatcher from Butte Central. Heard from Dr. Michael Wright, our sports medicine journal, and took you all the way through the NFL playoffs as well. As always, you can find everything on the Nuanez Now podcast, proudly presented by Blackfoot Communications as well as Sportsbet Montana. We'll be back at it on Monday. I want to tease a Montana basketball hour. It's probably going to be pretty heavy when it comes to high school hoops, though, because there's no college hoops this weekend when it comes to the Montana school. So
blank slate.
We'll always find something. Don't you worry. We'll line up some guests for you and all that. But have a great weekend. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Enjoy yourself. Some NFL playoffs throughout Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. And we will meet you back here at 4 p.m. This has been Nuanez Now. It's ESPN Radio.